Boom. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Fresh new recording. Let's have a power session on decentralized change making. So if you guys will let me, I'd like to just do a little brain dump for 3 or 4 minutes, and then I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts. So this, first of all, the centralized problem, then the inspiration for a solution, and then a little bit on the solution that I've kind of been envisioning. The central problem is you've got all these different groups and communities having these change making conversations, just like we're doing right here, right now. There's, I don't know, tens of thousands of such groups and meetings, hundreds of thousands. I don't know. It doesn't really matter how many zeros. The main problem is that collectively we're scoring a big fat zero ourselves as humanity on trying to cool the planet, stop the decimation of the Amazon and ecosystems generally, save life on Earth, etc. Right? Yes, lots of cool things are going on, notably in the blockchain space, decentralized DAOs, wows, schmows, all this cool stuff. Hard to keep up with it all, probably impossible to keep up with it all because it's all exploding so much. But nonetheless, we're still coming home. As much fun as we're having in the classroom, we're still coming home with a bunch of zeros and F's on the report card of saving life on Earth. Okay, so how do we turn that around? The change maker community, like I was saying, is so fragmented, right? And it's like we're still trying to do it in a centralized way. I mean, I'm as guilty of it as anyone. Here we are with this centralized community. I mean, not that I'm trying to be the next Stalin or anything. It's just we happen to be centralized, right? And so you got tens of thousands of centralized communities all doing their own thing, and it's very, very hard to find. So that's kind of the problem space. Point number two, the inspiration for a solution. I said, hey, what if we had a sort of distributed ledger, distributed calendar, if you will? See, the distributed ledger, I'm just going to call it block change, right? A blockchain specifically designed for change making that's decentralized. What if we had on the block change that part of it was a calendar, a universal calendar, where anyone can post to it anywhere in the world and say, hey, I'm scheduling a meeting next week for SRM in the Arctic, and this cool idea I've got, et cetera, et cetera. So no matter what your topic is on, permaculture, SRM, feeding everyone going plant-based, saving the Amazon, whatever, you can post it, and then everyone else can find out about it, either by browsing the calendar by time, by major topic, doing keyword search, whatever. As you know, we've been doing this on the internet for well over a quarter century, so we know how it works. We get the idea of how to search for stuff. So, but what's missing is that decentralized, ubiquitous calendar. Again, I'm just saying that's part of the block change. In addition to that, we could also have like a GitHub for solutionaries, a GitHub of solutions, all kinds of cool text-based stuff, kind of like what Reddit is doing. Or if Reddit's already got it nailed, just a pointer to Reddit, right? That much is solved. But you see, even Reddit is centralized. Even Reddit has censorship, et cetera. I think they do a pretty darn good job of it, I certainly haven't heard evil things about Reddit like you hear evil things about Facebook. But the point is that everything is centralized. And so what we're really talking about here is creating a whole new paradigm, a whole new block change that has nothing to do with money and everything to do with people coming together, sharing, collaborating, co-creating, doing like what we're doing here right now, but making it ubiquitous, right? And so notably, there's kind of like this yin yang that I see, which is that on the one hand, we want this full decentralization like I'm talking about. On the other hand, we ultimately need to reach some sort of a planetary unity. And where I see it coming together is that we first do the decentralized thing, make it so that anyone can post anything, everyone else can find out about their meetings, and people can join whatever meetings are available to be joined. And in this way, we kind of mix it up, like at a great party or something like that. We turn it into this great worldwide decentralized party of change making, not political party or anything like that. And I just think that in and of itself will be absolutely transformational, right? And then the question is, where do we go from there? We'll just let the collective genius of humanity just emerge through this decentralized change-making process, block change, universal calendar, et cetera, totally searchable, everything else. And like I said, not just the calendar, but a GitHub of solutions, Reddit-like stuff, et cetera. But again, decentralized, fully decentralized. And I think if we do that, you'll see a lot less turf wars, because turf wars will become irrelevant. It's like it's decentralized. There is no central ownership of anything. So, get off it in terms of turf wars, and get on it in terms of, if you want to talk about something, just post it to the universal calendar. Where else are you going to post it? Your own Facebook page? Your universal calendar, everyone can see. If you post it to your own Facebook page, only people who are your friends or followers or whatever can see it. So universal calendar, I just think it'll be like this killer app. Anyway, so with that as the starting point, where it can go from there, the sky's the limit. But can we start with the obvious, a decentralized universal calendar of all the change-making activities, not just Zoom video conferences, but activities. Again, GitHub for solutions kind of stuff, Reddit style stuff, Twitter style stuff, or whatever, but fully decentralized. Of course, a lot of questions come up like filtering and, what's change-making versus what's not. I think those are relatively easy problems to solve because people can basically choose their own filters, et cetera. People can say, hey, I only want to follow the stuff that people in this community in aggregate endorse. And if there's a majority of people in the community, like if I'm part of, whatever, call it the conversation community, and 98.7% of people in that community give it a thumbs down because it's fundamentally a pornographic posting that has nothing to do with change making. Okay, I know to just filter it out, right? And I can set my own dials. Hey, only if 90% plus of people say this should not be here, then I just ignore it. Just don't even let me see it, et cetera, et cetera. So I think there's easy solutions to filtering, even ranking. And we can also do stuff with reputation and clout. And if Gaio gives it a thumbs up, whoa, then I want to see it. If somebody else, gives it a thumbs up whose opinion I actually dislike, okay, I don't even want to see it. In fact, that might even be a criterion for me to not see it. But anyway, bottom line, we can each tweak our own settings, have our own control panel. I think that's the answer, if you will, to filtering and ranking. But anyway, they're at least part of the answer. With that, I'm going to pass the talking feather. Super excited to hear folks' thoughts. And thanks so much, everyone, for being here. Go and unmute.
I'll respond to that. Yeah, I mean, I love any idea that we're considering, doing in a decentralized way. Just to go at the very broad view. I'm actually not I'm not necessarily for full decentralization of everything. I don't think that's actually possible. I've said this before. In my years of studying this, and I used to be, when I first came into this, I was really realizing, oh wow, we're just going to decentralize everything because we're going to flip reality. And I've seen that it is like yin and yang. There's that some of the most decentralized projects in the space started off that way, and then just because of the way reality works, centralizing forces would come in all kinds of ways. And so it began to develop this insight over time. And I think that's just the way that reality works. It's just this constant balancing of centralizing and decentralized forces at different scales all the time. And that sometimes you want centrified things. Sometimes you don't want centrified things, Want to try living in a decentralized house? What's that look like? I don't know. I like walls. I like to know where my bed's at. It's just like sometimes you want a center to things, right? What blockchain does is it allows us to decentralize certain functions of social operation where it's proven to be often disadvantageous to the majority of people to have a few people managing those centralized positions, like the Federal Reserve, things like this. So that's what blockchain does well. It allows us to take those select places like money, like governments, law, and add some decentralization to them. That's the thing. So I don't know, I remember, years ago, like in 2017, during the bear cycle then, or during the bull cycle then, and there was this mass rush of ICOs, and everyone was coming out with an idea for blockchain, and there were just thousands of them, and everyone was just throwing money at it. You could have like a decentralized pet store, and just like everything was being decentralized, and it began to be realized, like, actually, like there's actually not everything will benefit from blockchain, and doesn't mean you can't do it, but certain things are done better than others. And so, as far as it comes to a decentralized calendar, sure, it could be done, and I'm sure it's fine. And I'm not necessarily I'm in agree with the idea of having a collaborative place where people can see what's going on. I'm not convinced that would need to be blockchain behind it. I'm not sure what exact advantage that would bring it, aside from saying, well, we're just flavoring our calendar with decentralization, which is cool, but does it really bring anything extra? I'm not sure. Now, what I think does, we could do that, but then I think what really makes sense is to have a decentralized governance system where voting can be done in a way where we, because like, okay, so people are posting things to the calendar, the thing is that with, okay, because if you're going decentralized, it's also other terms where they come in like permissionless, meaning that you can usually, people can do whatever they want. You don't need permission, and it can't be censored. So if we are going to have a calendar where people can post porn on it, then it's kind of going to go that way. So where is the balance of how much is managed by a few people and how much is it not? Or, but see, what really makes sense is that people would have a voting mechanism for the calendar or many, many other things. Voting is where it really matters. Voting is one of those things where that information, a vote, is a very valuable piece of information that you do not want censored, you do not want manipulated. You want people to have fully permissionless. They get to do their vote, and no one can tell them not to. It doesn't matter what they vote for. That's where it really matters. So I think that's the more exciting thing for me, is voting, and then the economic system, where also whatever's going on in the calendar and whatever activities people are doing, creating our own economy behind it, so that people are incentivized to not just talk about ideas, but to turn ideas into real things. That's where also blockchain come in. So I think a combination of these things is going to work best. And we could make a calendar, or there might even be something like that out there. That's for one. We want to go see. There might even be exactly this. Who knows? We should go look too. I think go look what is happening already in the decentralized space of change makers. I'm telling you, there's certainly change makers out there involved. It's not like the whole thing's void of them. I'm one. There's probably many others. Are they grouping somewhere? Holochain is actually a good example. Holochain is a good example. Holochain has that flavor. Now, again, it's a complicated, I'm sorry to rant here. I could go off in so many different directions, but, Holochain, maybe Holochain is a good place for us to start this, Jamen, I think some of my perspectives on Holochain. It's a little split. I think it's a great technology. It's very well designed, and I'm concerned about it because it's moving slow. And, we could create the best calendar system on there, but if people can't access it, or if it's too, if it's not well adopted, if everyone's using Ethereum, and, it's just, we tend to assume that it'll, I don't know. It's just, there's complications that could come into it. So, but, yeah. So there's some complications too, lots of things to consider, but generally speaking, I love the idea of definitely bringing that flavor into the community, where we can begin to see the possibilities of applying that technology in ways that people aren't used to. And maybe there's something we can, maybe there's some idea with maybe the calendar, whether the data on the calendar is actually used, because like a blockchain is just a type of database that's highly resistant to censorship, basically. So, do we actually have the data on the calendar on the blockchain? We could. or, or we could just use a standard database, or maybe some combination of both. But what would be interesting is if that calendar is then coordinating somehow with some other functions. Say, okay, this, maybe something like, I'm just brainstorming here, but like maybe something like what's already been going on, Jamen, with the press conference, and this kind of open forum for people to just basically talk about whatever they want to talk about. That maybe some combination of that, where people are lining up with their topics and they can put in bids for a schedule. Kind of like what we did. You put in a bid. I want to talk for 2 hours on, March 20th about X, Y, and Z. And then it goes onto a calendar. And then it's kind of like a proposal system. Like maybe that's even it. Maybe because it's like, maybe that's even it. Because like, if we want to accelerate action, we need to balance out ideas against more action-like things. So like we can keep doing presentations on all these fancy topics, but if the presentation is really mixed with here's a proposal and here's my idea behind it, here's my cool presentation behind it, but here's a proposal for something, here's a step forward that I want to, it's a longer term thing. It's not just a one drop idea of entertainment. It's entertaining presentation plus a proposal for moving this idea forward in a roadmap kind of way. And so I say, okay, I'm gonna put this on the proposal calendar, so to speak. I'm gonna propose this on July 15th, and maybe people can vote, say, no, we don't even want you talking about that on July 15th, or you need to do it on August 2nd. I don't know. So they can vote on that. And then okay, fine. I have to move it off August 2nd. People don't like that day. That's like the wrong day to do it for some reason. It's vegan holiday or something. I don't know. And then I'm almost done. Then but then I do the presentation, and those who attend it then get to vote. We give this presentation 4 stars. And then there's maybe a second voting. Like after all, there's a presentation period. Maybe for 3 months, people do presentations. And then at the end of that 3 months, everyone gets together and says, of these 50 presentations, we vote, and we vote with our votes. We also vote with our currencies, and give these 5 people the juice to take the next step of what they proposed. And then we go to round 2 or something, right? So they vote with their currency, and that currency can be used to energize the project. That was something like that. Just brainstorming here. I'm done for now.
Awesome. Love it, Michael. Next in the queue is Jamen. Just raise your hand if you want to be in the queue. I'll make mine brief. What I really like this idea of a proposal calendar and kind of mashing it up with something like the press conference. What if we start off with, hey, first come, first serve. Once you sign up, then you're in that order on the press conference, unless you say, hey, I want to be later in the day or something. But priority is but the primo spots are earlier in the press conference. And that's by design, because then as we do this more and more, people get to vote on people's 2-minute presentations at the press conference. So people who get lots of votes, when they come back a couple weeks later to give an update or something, oh, whoa, this guy got a whole bunch of positive votes and very few negative votes. Let's give them the option of presenting earlier in the press conference rather than later. So there becomes this kind of natural stack ranking. Now, that doesn't mean that the unknown person doesn't get a spot, but they may get a spot 3.5 hours in or 5.5 hours in, depending on how the ranking, which is voting driven, which I think people will find very empowering. Likewise, someone who gets a lot of votes might have more clout, like literally their votes could even count more in this sort of PageRank-like algorithm that determines ranking, right? So we could just have some very democratic kind of thing like that. and then also building on the core logic of the original press conference, because I think we got some things right and other things wrong. But among the things we got right was make your presentation, and then people will be able to, you can announce your open house then if you want to, or say, hey, this is what we're going to be talking about on our weekly open house or our monthly open house or whatever frequency, or even daily if it's a super hot one. And then people can just show up, let them vote with their feet, right? And if 10,000 people show up, that's a good problem to have, which means that you can then break it down into a bunch of different breakout rooms and divide and conquer and really make progress on that over the course of a weekend or something. If like 10,000 people show up and say, we just love this, hell yes, let's do it, right? Rather than saying, hey, let's have the whole community vote on which projects we're going to give the juice to, let people just vote with their freaking feet. You know, don't exclude any open house. If you do a 2-minute presentation that not that many people like, and then I have an open house and nobody shows up, all right. I didn't take resource away from anyone. I didn't force anyone into something they didn't like. And if people really didn't like my 2-minute presentation, if I just got up there and went, hey, what's up, everybody? You know, I think we should just have like world peace. You know, I just get a bunch of downvotes. It's like, quit wasting our time, Jack. Or if you want to waste our time, do it at the end of the press conference when everyone's pretty much gone to bed. You know what I mean? But even those people who get in at the very end, they'll have a way to work their way up. So I think there'll just be like this natural stack ranking that will emerge. Anyway, with that, I pass the talking feather. Going on mute. Loving this conversation.
Yeah, talking about not the conversation, but the press conference and things we did wrong and right, and just this whole conversation in general. You know, we have our ability to take the good parts of everything. You know, the example I always use, you know, that was like an epiphany for me was when fall comes, when I lived on the farm and we start firing up the wood cook stove. The wood cook stove was literally, you know, when cool nights in the fall and through the winter, it served two purposes. You were always able to cook and bake and you had the heat, but the microwave sat 3 feet away from it on the counter. You know, best of both worlds, until eventually we found out microwaves are not as great as we think they are. There's leakage and they kind of destroy the goodness in foods you cook in there. So I haven't had one since 2012 or 13, you know, so, but it's picking the gems, you know, and the gems don't need to be rubies or diamonds. Maybe it's just a cool looking marble. I'm not sure if that makes the big blue marble of it. Yeah, so and I think you know we need to do more beta testing of things. Let's, you know, get something out there. You know, we've talked about this and this and this. It's like, get it out there, try it out, see what happens. You know.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. But that's what's been happening so far in the decentralized arena. Bitcoin was an experiment. I don't think Satoshi Nakamoto really meant that it would be this big. I think he was even a little bit surprised. It was an experiment. He knew there were some problems with it. He was suggesting changes, and this has changed. And then other cryptocurrencies, you know, Ethereum has been a huge experiment. We've made lots of mistakes. We're learning from those mistakes, and it's still going on. I think one of my insights recently is that in this space, you know, it's a huge space. There's so much going on, and there's a lot of experimentation in governance happening. But it doesn't really have the full attention yet, governance. Most of the attention right now is still on the financial applications of blockchain. And I think that makes sense. I think we have to really get that rock solid first. That has to really fully land, because I think on top of an economic paradigm, you're going to build a new governance paradigm. That's my insight recently. I think once we have new incentive programs and new ways people are incentivizing each other, then we are going to be able to coordinate better and with each other. And then how we make decisions together will get more emphasis. And then there'll be another layer after that, you know. But so that's why I think that the governance is still happening, and we can still exercise it. We can do experiments ourselves, but there's still a lot to work out there. And I think that it's not going to fully gel until the decentralized finance really lands. And it's starting to land. So, but I agree, Marco, I think that just getting is out there, experimenting with it, is totally doable. Kathleen's asking, do we live in a matrix? I think so. But it depends what you mean by matrix.
We can like talk about that the next time maybe.
Sure.
Or have it as like a fun topic.
It's a very fun topic.
Kathleen's over in England, so it's a bit late there. But when we do, we can talk about tunneling out of the matrix.
Yeah.
Because we are a bit trapped in a matrix of the current paradigm of hoarding and ownership and domination and ego and tribalism. I mean, there's just all this crap. We're all traumatized. But so it could be like tunneling out of the matrix could be the theme. And speaking of themes, why not? But so you first recognize the matrix. If you don't even know that you're in a matrix, forget about tunneling out. Right.
Also the Matrix movie's coming. Matrix 4.
That's right. I'm looking forward to it.
All right.
Me too.
I'm looking forward to it.
Wow.
I'm a big fan too.
Mm-hmm. But I really like what you're saying, Michael, about an experiment. We can just experiment. We can just give it a try. I mean, the original press conference on November 19th, 2020 was an experiment. And hey, great to see you, Kathleen. Have a great night. It was just Kathleen. One big experiment, and it, for the most part, it went super well. People loved it, right?
Yeah.
Now we can just layer on top voting, which won't be that hard, right? Definitely enforce the 2-minute rule or 5-minute rule or whatever time period we give. Also, with the whole voting thing, people who get enough votes could even get a primo 5-minute slot during the first hour, where it's kind of like, these are the current, top 12 runners up, in this American Idol style voting system. So the first 12 get 5 minutes each, top of the hour. And it's like, whoa, everyone shows up for that, and then after that, it's 2 minutes each. But again, people with higher votes go first. Whether it's your first time presenting or it's an update. Some people will give updates every couple of weeks. It's only 2 minutes, right? So what's the big deal? And there's a lot of power in just being able to see that and all of us be together in real time, watching, voting, giving feedback. And then again, vote with your feet. Show up at the next open house if you're interested. Simple as that. So I think that's a really great starting point. And I like the whole permissionless aspect. That's really huge. I think permissionless combined with voting, and then have a natural stack ranking. I think that's it. I think the first nugget of this could be really simple, and then we can keep adding to it, right?
Yeah.
Keep modifying it. And in fact, listen to this. Some of the presentations themselves will be proposals for how to modify the decentralized changemaker system.
Exactly. Yeah, it's that's called autopoiesis, right? It's self-regulating, creating system. That's what we're seeing. These are the beginnings of, right? Isn't that what that term means? Autopoiesis means that, basically.
I love it.
I love it. It's like how it's a self-organizing organism. Just it evolves. That's what's happening anyways.
Right. It's what's happening anyways.
Static,
It's just not happening fast enough. It's not happening well enough. As long as we're losing hundreds of species per day, one could make a pretty strong case that something's not working well in this current autopoiesis, right?
Well, I just mean that, I don't know. It's a big topic, and I agree. I was there. I invested 3 years of my life on the 6 mass extinction of the species project. I know it's real. I know there's real suffering happening. there's really big loss. And planet Earth has seen things like this before. You know, I don't know. I tend to want to, you know, I think that a lot of us are trying to look for perfection in the human species. And I think I'm a lot more forgiving. That evolution is messy. It always has been. There are destructive forces in the universe outside of human beings. And so I just I'm not trying, you know, I'm saying, yeah, we should have the intention always to have compassion and peace and unity and everyone feeling as good as possible and saving as much life as possible. At the same time, if we are too panicked and too rushed, we might keep tripping over ourselves. Or if we just slow down, focus, realize what's the right thing to do, and then take a little bit of time just to do it right. You know, we might have more time than we think. Just an idea, we might. I think that the panic that I see so prevalent right now, like, you know, I don't even spend much time on Facebook anymore. I can barely post anything there. I post something that seems like a little bit of a positive turn on an electric vehicle, and you know, people just come in and you can tell their arguments are just so skewed and so uninformed. That's just based on pure emotion. Understandable. People are scared right now. But if we're going to actually find solutions, we got to kind of get control of that a little bit and just realize, yeah, you know, we are a young species. We're like a little toddler, you know. If your little 3-year-old come into the room and they're like smashing light bulbs, they're throwing light bulbs at the cat. Fucking A, what are you throwing light bulbs at the cat for? Preserve life, damn it. Or they're pouring gasoline on the cat and trying to set the cat on fire. They're gonna fucking put the cat into extinction. You might want to panic a little bit there, right? But it's the fucking toddler. He doesn't know. I think we can have some compassion for ourselves. We're actually, if you really look at the big picture, we're a very young species. We've come so far so fast. Again, like, you know, my hypothesis, you know, tongue in cheek, the Gaio hypothesis, I don't know if it's real or not, is that way before humans are even here, the Earth has been being pelted by asteroids for millions and millions and millions of years, way before we were here, wiping out species. It wasn't human beings do it. Asteroids are slamming the Earth, wiping out entire epochs of species, the dinosaurs. What if the human story that we've wrapped up so fast and we had to like grab oil and like build rockets and microwave ovens and all this shit to just rapidly get to it of creating an artificial intelligence satellite system that can prevent future asteroids from slamming to the Earth? Because that could happen next week. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter whether you have electric cars or biodiesel cars or whatever. An asteroid can come at any time. If we're not ready for it, it's done. Story done. Doesn't matter. Solar radiation management, none of that fucking matters anymore. Everything's done. All life wiped out, done. What if this whole thing is the autopoiesis of planet Earth to rapidly, with some cost, there's some cost to it, but she knows it's a better intelligence system to get that fucking system up now meaning tens of thousands of years in Earth time, is a blink of her eye. Boom. So, you know, it's messy. We've had to do it messy, and now I think we're about there. Maybe we might be there. And now we can, you know, clean up the laboratory, so to speak. But I just see so much damage doing to ourselves too. We're just like so judgmental, and there's so much battling happening that it's, in my mind, because it's kind of getting in the way a bit. So, you know, if we create an experiment like this where people can present whatever they want and vote on it, I think it's great. And, you know, maybe we could also kind of wrap it in a larger theme, and, you know, that would have to do with this kind of decentralizing theme. Maybe we want to call it something different. We don't want to call it the Bitcoin conference or anything like that. We want to call it, you know, some kind of new paradigm, you know. the regenaissance or whatever, you know, something. It's because it has all these aspects to it where because people are really misinformed. I think people are scared to death. People are so scared and they don't understand. And so I think helping them understand, you know, having a conversation, a little flavored, you know, we still have a lot of diversity. You know, I think I love this idea that Hanima and is it Nanda, her name? Of having like
Ananda, yeah.
having the bigger money conversation, and I don't like to use that term, you know, or the currency conversation, or the revolution of value conversation that's happening, that's so significant, that relates not just to money, it relates to governance and all these things we're talking about. It's value itself. You know, having a conversation around that, I think it's one of the most important conversations we can have right now. People are having a hard time bending their minds around it. You know, what if we did that and really had like a full on, you know, multi-day drop in where people can come and really absorb in all the dimensions of that. And then they would get to go, oh, and you guys are actually running this experiment using that technology that's so key to this, you know. I think that would be helpful, because otherwise people are trying to grasp for shit and just, you know, it's not working either. It's not working either. So I think we have to, you know, I like Terrence McKenna said, just push the art pedal through the floor. This is go forward, man. And we'll solve the solutions on the way, you know. Right, I'm done ranting.
Love your rant, Michael. All right, Jamin's next in the queue. Jamin's the only one in the queue. Raise your hand if you want to queue in. Michael, when you were talking about Facebook and all that, you post an idea about, hey, electric vehicles, which is a very inherently positive thing, period. And then you start, you're just, it's for the elite, it's for the rich, it's still using electricity, which is coming from coal burning power plant. You know, I can understand it. What came to mind?
So like, it often leads to like, and then, you know, Hollywood and the pedophiles, and it's just like, it's just this deep hole of no, totally. Everything's bad. Everything's bad.
Exactly.
We're all fucked. Yeah. Let me ruin your day.
Exactly. So what came to mind, Michael, did you ever see the movie Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid? Paul Newman, Robert Redford. Okay, you saw it. Okay. Do you remember the final scene where they're just like in Bolivia? They're like in the middle of some bullfighting ring or something in some little protected thing. Christopher saw it too. I think Marco starred in it. I think he was like the Bolivian commander or something. Anyway, and they're about to make a run for it. And they're just surrounded by the whole Bolivian army. And that's what Facebook has become. When Michael posts electric cars on Facebook, he's like Butch Cassidy making a run for it, and the whole Bolivian army just, you know, good luck getting the fuck out of there alive, right? You know, not going to happen. So, so the
I'm exaggerating. Usually it's just two or three people. Like a lot of people like it and they're interested, and they'll have an intelligent, calm, mature conversation around it. Maybe we'll both learn some things. I'm learning too, but other people are just so fucking neggy.
Yeah, but you see, but Facebook, by its very nature, that you can hide behind, you know, a pile of bricks and just shoot at Gaio, you know, when he's posting about electric cars. It's kind of built into it structurally, right? That you can snipe.
It is,
right.
It's designed to get us fighting.
Exactly. And so, you know, and then there's a bunch of people just salivating, watching the fight, like people at a fucking boxing match or something, just watching somebody get a broken nose, concussion, or worse, like Bruce Willis in that movie Pulp Fiction or whatever. But anyway, enough about that. I really think the press conference and, you know, voting and people just like being there in real time. I mean, we've talked for now years, actually, a couple of years anyway, about the social network of actual conversations. Snack bar, I think it was like a year and a half ago, we came up with that concept. A social network of actual conversations, like what we're doing right now, right? So if I have something to say, I can't just say it and run away. You know, I'm here. All right, Marco's got his hand up. Go for it, Marco.
Yeah, snack that bar. I think not having that set up and functioning before the press conference kind of shot us in the foot a little bit there. It would have been, because, at least one person in particular, Dan, have you gotten an email from Dan Bader yet? He said he was going to write
No, I haven't.
explaining how he's not doing his open house anymore because nobody shows up, and that, by his expectations, we kind of dropped the ball because he understood that by being at the press conference, we were automatically guaranteeing him an audience, which I keep telling him is not what was supposed to happen. At the press conference, there'll be whoever shows up, but an audience for your open house is, kind of your responsibility to a very large extent. If you want to have this conversation, he wouldn't even post it on his own Facebook page. I said, look at this example of co-creators have 20 people every time they're here, whereas evolutionary leaders call Nina Patrick, she has the same 4 or 5 people that showed up in her previous location. And when I went and looked at both their Facebook pages, I can see why. One of them was promoting, the other one was promoting everything but themselves. Literally, they listed everything going on, every organization, but not once did they have anywhere prominently in their events their own event. So, but anyhow, but still, we, that I think that's a key piece of the whole press conference. This, snack.bar, and then when we talked about this here earlier, the ranking system and everything, that could just put them higher up on the list in snack.bar. We can bring that all together, and then the question: are we still headed in that direction to go back to press conference and snack.bar, or a slightly different evolution? I'm complete.
Go ahead, Michael, and then I'll go.
Yeah, Marco, I love just I so agree, and I've said this for a long time. I think it's so much more effective if we're getting people together to talk about things, to have a way to engage them that's parallel to that. Have a prototype of something we're working on. Have another page somewhere that the conversation can keep going. Something like multiple dimensions. It's all available, because otherwise things just tend to dilute and dissipate. What was I gonna say? I was gonna say something cool. Darn it. Oh, Jamen, did you take a look at Theta yet? I haven't yet. I was going to do that more.
Not yet.
Marco, I know Marco, you're doing some research into holochain, and like this is why I've been encouraging people here, like myself. Like I'm just so immersed in that world, but it's so vast I can't cover it all. But I think if we're going to build some kind of prototype or have any kind of parallel engagement space, we should collectively be looking for what that is, and at least becoming literate of what's out there, because there's a lot. I was sharing with Jamen a few days ago about there's a project called Theta that's a decentralized blockchain based project. Go check it out. I think it's really cool. I've looked into it a little bit. I just haven't had time to go into it deeply because there's so much else I'm doing. But Theta is a video. It's like YouTube in a way, but it's on blockchain. So let me just give you a little intro. I know that, just out of the gate, it's really cool because I know that currently a lot of people on YouTube are sometimes being censored. YouTube, if they don't like what you're talking about, they can take your video down. And there's certain topics you can't talk about now, and that's going to only increase. Also, it's just the economic paradigm. It works. Some people make their livings off of YouTube, but then if they're getting shut down, they're getting disrupted. So Theta is going the opposite direction, and it's a decentralized video sharing platform that's going to be censorship resistant, and they have their own token economy in there. And then I think people can both be paid by being content providers directly from people by liking their videos. They get like some tokens, and I think it even goes inverse that consumers of the videos are in the economy. So it's just the whole new paradigm, that kind of thing. very obvious example. And I think that my sense is that Theta is doing really well. That it's because a good idea alone in the crypto space is not going to guarantee success. You've got to have, solid management and good marketing and all this kind of stuff together. And it seems like it's doing really well. It's probably going to catch on. That's my sense. And what I was sharing with James is that I haven't I used it once. I watched some videos. It looks really cool. Like, wow. I want to go look at it more. And I'm just imagining what else might be there. Like there might also be the possibility that there could be like an open API or some kind of some of the project might be open source or extensible that we might even be able to extend on top of that somehow. Like other projects could possibly extend, because that's what we really need. We need something like YouTube or Zoom, real-time video chatting and presenting, but in a decentralized fashion that's censorship resistant and has its own economy. Let the people run it. There's even have a governance system within it itself. So that's what we need, and someone's going to do it. And then they should also design it in a way that other projects could extend off of that. So we could have our own wrapping, And so I don't know if all that's there with Theta, but we should be looking at things like that. Because that's what we're, if we're even, if that was possible and we could just like extend off of Theta a bit and start doing a video, we could do a video conference off of Theta or something like it, and then have a little bit of a token in there and all that. Just even having a little bit of that while we're doing a press conference part 2 or whatever, I think it's gonna, people are gonna go, whoa. I've been spending all this time on fucking Facebook fighting for nothing. Didn't even know this was here because people don't know it's there. And these things are only going to get more and more and more prevalent. So, the sooner we let people know about these things, it starts to change their mind. They start to think differently about everything, a little bit at least. So that's what I'm saying. Like, let's go look at these things. I can't do it all myself. I'm looking, but it's good just to get everyone start literate on this stuff more and more and more. So that's what I recommend. And Theta's the thing on top. When it comes to this group, so far, Theta's the first thing I would look at. And then maybe there's more. And then even by being on Theta too, if you look at the people on Theta are more people who are way into crypto, way into decentralization. There could even be change makers there already having conversations. We aren't going to know about them if we're not looking at them there. So what might we learn by being there? It's just, a constant process of discovery. So that's what I propose. Yeah, and I would say that, if we're gonna do another, I think the press conference idea was great. We could do something like that again, but we should prepare a little bit first. Do it way differently.
Totally.
Way better.
Love it. Cool. Love it. Yeah, I'm all for that. In fact, the whole experience with the press conference has been ready, fire, aim. We got ready. We just freaking, like Elmer Fudd, and then I got a bunch of gunpowder in my face and everything, and Dan Bader's not happy, and this and that. Because we weren't ready to really do it full blown. But I'm really glad that we took the initial shot, got the feedback. And now we're processing, and that took us on this whole journey of ICIC, et cetera. And now, we're coming back to the press conference to know the place for the first time and say, hey, there's some real potential there, because people loved it. And that was just on the first iteration. So, when the original Apple Macintosh is a runaway success, the MacBook Pro that's coming later is going to be freaking dank. And that's exactly what we're seeing now. So I say, let's focus on the press conference reloaded. Definitely a universal calendar for press conference presentations, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, have voting. We'll figure out how to best do that. Maybe SurveyMonkey, probably more like in the moment voting, which Zoom facilitates. Also have that universal calendar for open houses. We don't have it yet. We never built it. I started messing around with it on SurveyMonkey Got a little help from Julie Molyneux, but it just kind of fell by the wayside. So we got to reactivate that. And then I think another thing that's going to be really helpful is support for having separate Reddit threads, Reddit conversations where people can continue the conversation asynchronously and hop right on it tonight. So I love that. Here, let me get right on it. Let me find out. Oh, hey, loved your presentation. Da, da, da. Have you thought about this? Good for the presenter, good for the audience. And then, Michael, I love your idea of showing people what's out there, like Theta, maybe at the tail end of the press conference or as a separate meeting altogether to say, hey, we're going to do a show and tell of, what tools and what stuff is out there for promoting your stuff. See, that was the thing. Go ahead, Michael.
I just want to clarify what I really meant is, what if we were doing the conference on Theta? Then we're not just showing Theta, we're actually doing Theta, and they're getting to see, oh, whoa, you're doing this conference on the technology itself. It's more direct. I'm not saying that's possible. We don't know yet, but it could be possible that we could do. How can we actually use these tools as the medium of conversation itself? That way, it's not just pointing to it; we're doing it directly. You know what I mean? It's very different.
No, I love it. I love it. And,
if it's possible, or there might be something else out there like Theta, or if there's not, there's certainly something coming. That's why my emphasis is really a lot on research, just looking, like, just do some pioneering. Let's just pioneer out there, look what's out there. What can we use now to not just point to? We could also do that. We could say, by the way, we've been using this, and here's a presentation on what we've been using. But also, like, what else is out there? For example, too, this week I'm intending on doing a lot of research into Polkadot and into what's called Binance Smart Chain. There's these, two new ecosystems. There's more of these vast ecosystems out there in the decentralized world that will have lots of projects launched on them. They look really promising, but they're, so it's just like, there's so much out there that it's really easy not to know what's out there. And so by us exploring, we might find gems that are just, really applicable to what we're trying to do. Because Zoom has taken us this far. I think it has limitations.
Love it. Love it. Awesome. Yeah. Marco has his hand up, and then Jamen. Go ahead, Marco.
It's really funny you said that, because that's in my notes here is Zoom has taken us a long way. Is it something that we should be looking for a different platform, because it has its limitations, and they make a little improvement here or there. Now hosts and co-hosts can raise their hand, which was silly when you became a co-host, you couldn't raise your hand, things like that. So we're thinking in the right direction. And I was and also I agree on Facebook. Facebook has become just pretty much garbage. I mostly use it just for messaging, for because everybody says, oh, what's your Facebook? So yeah, I'll get them a friend of my Messenger, and I can contact them. But I spend so little time now going through my news feed that it's kind of silly. And what's the other thing? Oh, the ICIC. Are we still devoting time to that, or how's that going to roll out here? And I would love it if you could elaborate just a little bit on Polkadot and Smart Chain. And that's me complete for right now.
Jamen, do you want to say something?
Oh yeah, sure. So and then mine will be brief, and then I'll pass it to you, Michael. So I really like this idea of doing it on Theta, and then separately, or even as a separate event or something, show people what's out there. Because a big part of our value add with the press conference, what made it so enticing for people, why so many people showed up and hung in there all day long, was we gave people a platform to share their stuff, their project, right? That's like free candy on Halloween. Who's not going to show up? And so I think that, building on that will be also showing them these other things that are out there. And because, like, I was thinking, like the Reddit thread, hey, if you want a Reddit thread, just tell us and we'll help you get set up with a Reddit thread. And, then volunteers here can even go to stoke those fires and help keep them stoked. Likewise with Twitter and tweets. Not everybody tweets. We could say, hey, do you want us to tweet out your message? We'll do it on our Twitter feed, the press conference Twitter feed, whatever. And then also for exploring these things, we could have scheduled field trips where a group of us gets together, whoever's interested, and together we explore these different things. And it could be that we're each kind of on our own screen doing something, and then when someone finds something, you say, hey guys, I want to show you this, check this out. Hey, make me co-host, and you screen share. And it's like, whoa. Because some people will really dig that. So anyway, I'm just grooving on building off that initial success, adding in these other things, doing it right the second time. Now that we've gotten ready, fired, now let's aim and do a reloaded. Christopher has his hand up. Marco, were you waiting to speak, or who Michael? Maybe it was you, Michael. I forget. Maybe
Christopher,
Michael,
go ahead. I'll answer Marco's questions after Christopher.
I was just going to say, we were talking about using Discord a few months ago, I think with somebody who's here. But I do think that the Zoom platform offers a bunch of unique, important features that will remain useful. It's kind of like a mandala in a way, like every day you have to wipe the slate, clean. And that helps to create sort of a resistance to some sort of dogma that might arise over time as we sort of get entrenched. I mean, with this ecosystem of ideas, that forces there to be a competition. If you're serious enough, or if the idea is good enough, there'll be enough people here talking about it every day going forward in the Zoomosphere. Whereas if we start operating in a system where stuff's written down exclusively, then that could be, more dogmatic. So I don't know. I really like the idea of the chalkboard being erased every day in some senses, but I do think that adding new technologies or new platforms with it, using them together would be useful for sure. Yeah, that was my thought on that.
Yeah, great point. I fully agree. I think I had brought up Discord. I don't know if I was the one that you were thinking of, but I brought up Discord a couple of weeks ago or whatever, and also I had proposed, I think, Anand was trying to think that we need a central place where everyone can come together, and I'm a little bit resistant against having that much emphasis on central, that we have to somehow unify in this perfectly thing. It's like, no, that's not what's happening. We're already in a city in the clouds, and we can have our Zoom here, and Zoom does what Zoom does well. And you're right, there's certain benefits of doing it this way that you don't get other places. And so we can have an ecosystem of conversations here on Zoom. Absolutely, this works really well. You can't do this in other places. And then we can have Discord, and some people like Twitter, and some people still want to use Facebook. Fine, but and so yeah, having it be open, we have different conversations, and I think it would help to have a centralizing forum for people to kind of cohere around decision making, maybe. Getting concrete, maybe we can vote on that too, but having a place where people can basically have a democratic process of voting and making proposals, whatever it is. So we all want to just use Zoom, and then we can vote on that, or whatever it is, that way some congealance around decision making is made. But yeah, I love Zoom too. I think this works really well. It's really nice to come in here. It's fresh and dynamic and full of energy, and real-time brainstorming is certainly an element that we don't want to give up. Hey, Marco, to answer your question about Polkadot and Binance Smart Chain, what I mean is that in the blockchain space, there are a number of projects that are the most common for realizing some of the greatest potential blockchain and creating something like what would be a distributed computer operating system. This is what, if you're familiar with Ethereum, right, Marco? If you know what Ethereum is, Ethereum was the thing that really introduced this idea of using smart contracts on the blockchain, and it just opens up this tremendous potentiality pretty much doing anything in the blockchain space in this distributed way. It's just huge potentials. If you really understand what Ethereum is, understand that Ethereum's been doing that for a while, but they have some weaknesses. And so then we have these other projects like Cardano and Polkadot, and now one's called Binance Smart Chain. There's also IOTA. And these projects also, these projects are more like platforms for other people to create projects on, rather like you take something like Litecoin or Ripple. They're special purpose projects that are designed to be specific kinds of currencies or something like that. Or Bitcoin's a very special purpose project now. It's become that, right? But Ethereum is really broad. It's like an operating system to do many things on. So with that said, Ethereum has some weaknesses, and there's some competition with other projects like EOS and Polkadot and Cardano and IOTA that are kind of doing the same thing that Ethereum wants to do, but they might be doing it better, right? And so there's kind of like this race of all these projects. And I personally think that they'll probably all still exist. It's not just going to be, again, it's not just going to be one of these projects that does it all. We'll have a vast ecosystem of ecosystems, and they'll all be interoperable. But what I meant about, focusing on my research of focusing on Polkadot and Binance Smart Chain, or BSC, is that those ones are relatively new. And since they're new, they're often implementing newer ideas and learning from the mistakes of projects before them. So often there's a lot of promise in just looking at them and seeing what they're doing differently and things like that. So that's why I'm researching those. And by the way, the Polkadot and Cardano, the founders of each of those projects used to be early founders of Ethereum. So they really know what they're talking. These guys really know what they're talking about. They were working on Ethereum early days, and then they left the project to go start their own project. So they didn't fully agree with how Ethereum was being run. So that's why some of these look so promising. That they're not just pop shots. These guys really know what they're doing. And Binance Smart Chain is run by the Binance company, which is one of the most popular cryptocurrency exchanges out there. And they're really smart people. And they also kind of get it all. And part of that too is I do a lot of research. So I kind of get a sense for what's beginning to emerge on the edges of the hype. Like you get these hype waves coming, like everyone's talking about this project this week, or for maybe 3 months it's this project or this idea. And I kind of get a sense for those things early. I think that Polkadot's probably going to enter a hype cycle soon, and BSC. And so just good to know what's going on there. Did that answer your question? Cool.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm glad you're getting into it, Marco. And yeah, Holochain's a really interesting project too.
Yeah, a lot to learn.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And again, it's this. I like that idea too. It's kind of feel like we could have maybe like second. Think back to second grade show and tell. Next week we'll all meet and bring three new concepts. Or be prepared to explain. 10 minutes on whatever it is, theta or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody can come and give their take on whatever their favorite thing is they saw in the last 3 weeks or the last week. Anything to get us more familiar with all the new technology and not miss the gem that's out there that might be perfect for us.
Yeah. Good idea. Mm-hmm. Maybe we should do that. Maybe we could all go into theta this week and just check it out. Come back next week, share our thoughts on it.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it may require getting a MetaMask. You know what MetaMask is, Marco?
Nope.
Yeah, I think it does. could check real quick. Hold on a second. So there's thetatoken.org, but that's not the actual. Where's the network at? Let's see. Join the network. It's so cool. And by the way, I think one of the founders of YouTube is their advisor. Like they've got some good guns in them.
Well, I started looking for Theta, and it looks like, and I'm not exactly sure how Discord works, but there's a Theta, there's a Theta network Discord channel.
Yeah. Discord's basically just it's kind of like Reddit. It's just a chat environment where people, anyone can set up their own group. Like we could easily set up our own group there. It's free. And then inside that group, you can make different chat channels. And I use it almost every day. The crypto community is very common in there. The gaming community is very common in there, but anyone can be. It's not limited anyway. I'm trying to find the actual network link. So you can go to theta.org for the website describes the whole project. And then where is the actual, there's a wallet, Theta wallet. Looks like they have their own wallet. So I know I'll have to look into it more. That's unfortunately, that's one of the little frictions of getting into this is if you haven't already been into it, is that using the things like Theta, that's an application on blockchain, and often to really engage with it, you can go look at it, maybe you can participate with it to some degree, but to really fully engage with it, you need to connect a wallet to it. And that basically just means that you're claiming it's kind of like having your own identity within the blockchain itself, where you can transact. And that could be that you're transacting with cryptocurrencies or voting, or you're just any kind of action you're taking. Since that action is interacting with the blockchain, having your own wallet is like the interface to that.
Okay. Oh yeah, here's a good question. Since you brought up, sorry to interrupt, up wallets. So like can you have one wallet that would work with Bitcoin and Theta, or do they each have their own specific wallets?
Both, and I mean, well, mostly the second, meaning that the way that the Bitcoin blockchain works and the Ethereum blockchain works is they're generally not compatible, and so I would normally have a Bitcoin wallet and the Ethereum wallet would be very different things that would sign into differently and manage differently. Though also there are third parties who make wallets that will integrate both those things in one place. So, but then those may not be really useful on certain applications that run in either of those blockchains. So it's not necessarily a singular simple answer. And that's why it can be a little bit complex and hard to learn. But what I would recommend, and I'm not sure about Theta exactly. I'm not sure if Theta's even developed on Ethereum. I don't even know right now if they have their own blockchain or if they're developed on Ethereum or something else. But what I would recommend, and I recommended this to Jamen recently too, is to learn MetaMask. Get on YouTube, go watch a couple videos on MetaMask and how to set up MetaMask. What MetaMask is it's one of the most common Ethereum wallets. And it's very popular to use because Ethereum is such a vast ecosystem and there's so many current applications and projects built on Ethereum, that it's really common for people to use MetaMask to access those applications. Or like for example, I have a MetaMask, and not only do I have some Ethereum, cryptocurrency on there that I use for different things. Plus I have other tokens on there that are developed on Ethereum that I invested into, that I just store there. And then also like I use my MetaMask to log in to websites. Like I think I showed you OpenSea, Marco. Did you see OpenSea a week or two ago?
No,
I thought you saw that. Yeah, well, there's also like a huge art market. Like there's different marketplaces in the crypto space and art markets that I'm participating with, where people are making art and selling it. In order to log into those marketplaces, you just need to log in using MetaMask so that it uses your address, and then you can receive art or send art. If you wanted to vote somewhere, you would
okay.
want to.
You
Yeah.
were trying to put a piece of artwork on that. That was the
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I did.
The NFTs. Yeah.
I just didn't remember the name.
Yeah. So I really recommend, just if you're going to get into this, I think it's great. Learn MetaMask now, and just simply saying, I'm saying that because that's a really common thing that people are doing right now for interacting with the Ethereum space, and you're kind of getting a feel for just how that general thing works of having a wallet where you can log into decentralized applications this way. Now, with that said, there's also a big disadvantage that people are also talking about now, where like if you're using the Ethereum blockchain, anytime you do anything, a transaction, whether you're sending cryptocurrency or if you're voting or doing something, they charge you some amount of gas. There's like a fee.
Yeah,
and it's getting out of control sometimes. Like sometimes you're like, I paid a $75 fee once just to send a piece of art, and that's the thing is, those fees aren't the way that Ethereum is designed is they don't even like really compartmentalize the action you're taking. Like I could be voting for something, and depending on the network usage, those fees might be really high at any time or not high at any, or lower at another time. And if I had to pay a $75 fee to vote, that's just not gonna fucking go.
No.
So that's when Ethereum, they need to solve that problem. I think having fees like that, or having a $75, if there's a banker who's using a decentralized finance app to send $10 million, and they're going to pay a $75 fee, fine. That's maybe appropriate. But if you're asking, Jamin's girlfriend to go vote for $75, what's she gonna say, Jamin? Hell no. So I think that's why, Polkadot and Cardano, they're very aware of these things. I've been watching some interviews from Charles Hoskinson, who's the Cardano founder, who again was one of the early founders of Ethereum. He's a very smart guy, and he's really illuminating a lot. And I think, they're thinking a lot about this. So I think Cardano and a Polkadot will probably not be doing these things the exact same way. So, but still, I think just for simplicity's sake, just by learning these things, I think it's still good to have an Ethereum or a MetaMask wallet and just learn. Not so I'm not asking you to spend $75 on any kind of transaction, but you can still set it up and just get a feel for how it works. And you can still sign into these applications without having to pay a fee. So like you could go get it. And again, I know this is complicated, but I think Theta, I'm not sure. It looks like Theta had its own wallet. So they might even have their own blockchain with their own wallet. It may not be, MetaMask may not be applicable, but if you use MetaMask first, you'll at least have a basic understanding how that kind of works. And then you can go get the Theta wallet and sign in and get a Theta account and just see how it works. Because I don't even know exactly how it works. I did sign into Theta a couple weeks ago and use it. I just don't remember all the details, but I didn't have to pay anything. So, hey, Jamin, how's that been coming? You've been learning MetaMask?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I've just been a bit overwhelmed, but
yeah, I know.
Yeah, but soon, very soon, very, very soon.
Yeah,
high on the list.
Well, while you're both here, as far as Bitcoin right now goes, what's the best and cheapest platform to use to buy, like CoinDesk or there's CoinDesk, Coinbase. What's Alan uses Wave.
Waves. Yeah. What Well, you know, there's